The Germanium500 Mark II has just come out. It is essentially the rack-mounted unit in a 500 series. Again, I do get questions, the difference between the rack mount and the 500 series, because there's a size difference, obviously. The main difference is only the voltage in the rack. It uses the same transformers, the same amp block. The layout is smaller. I had to squeeze things in a little more. And it's a very full unit. If you look inside, the transformers and the amp block, it's completely filled from top to bottom, front to back. But it is all the same parts. The only difference being 16 volts plus and minus, versus in the rack mount, it runs on, we run it on about 40 volts. So you have an 8-volt difference there, which does make some sound difference. If I had to quantify it, I don't think I could explain it. I don't think I could necessarily pick out which one was different. We wouldn't put it out if we didn't think it was as good as the original, you know. So it is essentially the same product, just in a more convenient package. I think a lot of why people like the Germanium is because of the feedback control. You can actually tailor the sound to your liking and to your source by changing the negative feedback of the amplifier, which is when a portion of the output signal is fed back towards the input in various ways. And it changes the frequency response, the harmonic distortion, and when you combine it with how hard you drive the gain, you actually have a pretty big palette of sound choices. If you have a really bright source, turning the feedback up and the gain down will make it less bright and also have less harmonic information. If you want it to be really colored, I tend to turn the feedback down as low as I can get it and have the gain very high. Then it starts to sound more alive. It's fuller sounding. It's brighter as well. Then you can also do things like pushing in the pad on the pre and padding the microphone, and then you can start to drive both. And that's my favorite, when you start to get it around 7 or 8 and have the feedback quite high, then it starts to really sound on fire, you know. Sound of the Germanium, a lot of people actually compare it to tubes because it's a very smooth, kind of big sound. It's not as bright as a lot of transistor gear can be. So it's a really kind of nice alternative between like a solid state silicon type of sound and a tube sound. And I think that's another reason why it's been very popular. It kind of fits in the middle of a lot of the other things out there. One of my favorite things we do, for sure.